What's going on, everybody? Keith here, and welcome to another edition of the Official Keith Podcast. I'm your host, Keith, and today's guest is a native of the area of Fort Worth, Texas. Very successful business owner with a lot of insights, especially if you're trying to start your own business or you need to enhance the business that you have. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Jeremy to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking some time, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate the invite.
I appreciate your time, man. I mean, a lot of times when it comes to business, we act like we want to know what we're talking about until it starts happening, and then we come into a conundrum or some type of whatever. So let's just go ahead and jump into this. What made you get in? Well, first of all, let's start over because we're going to shout out your business.
Okay.
Let us know what your business is about and what you do.
Cool. So the business name is Jeremy A. Johnson, CPA, PC. So it's kind of hard for me to remember sometimes, but it's my name. I'm a CPA. And what we do is we work with small business owners, small to medium-sized businesses, and we help with creating efficiencies when it comes to tax liabilities, profitability, and wealth management.
Okay.
So we also walk through processes as it relates to just financial matters when it comes to owning your small business.
Okay. So now, a lot of people will hear this and they'll probably think, okay, excuse me, I'll need somebody like that in my corner. Can people just come to your place of business and get to work, or how does that whole process start?
So we have a process that it took us a little time to get to it, but we have a process to where we can help business owners that are just getting started. Actually, we can go all the way back to someone that has a great idea and wants to start their own business. They're thinking about starting their own business.
Okay.
And so we have tools available for them. And then we have tools for business owners that are actually established and are working within their business and have been working in there either for years or just getting started. So we try to cover the gamut, right? But we want to make sure that it's going to be doable from a financial standpoint.
Okay.
So that's the thing. That's the thing that I saw. And that's why I have a passion for small businesses because, getting started, a lot of them just don't have the resources to really work with a professional. And so that's why I want to put tools and resources out there for them to be able to be successful as small business owners.
That's pretty amazing. And, a lot of times you hear people that are successful, they'll say something like, okay, well, I need to figure out a way to give back to the community. I think what you're doing, you're giving back to the community, and y'all don't trip. This stuff is not just a freebie, but the wealth of knowledge that you give is helping those of us that have the aspirations of having a small business and just not having the know-how or, how to get to whatever. Can you take us through a typical day in your business?
Oh my gosh, a typical day. So usually it starts at about 5 a.m.
Okay.
Getting up. I like to start my day off with positivity and giving back to who I know gave me the ability and the gifts to do what I'm doing. So I'm usually, I'm up, I'm reading some scripture, I'm praying, I'm thinking through the day.
Right.
And then I try to, so this sounds good, I'm going to put it out there in the airwaves. But the goal is really to work out for the next hour.
Right.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't always happen. So I end up going straight to the office because I have something that's going on. And what I'm usually doing is I'm clearing out some emails first thing in the morning, getting that out of the way, reading through some articles, some magazines, some publications that I have. And then from there, man, I jump right into it. So being an entrepreneur, and that's where my passion is really just showing people what it looks like to own your own business. Being an entrepreneur, of course, with the firm, I'm dealing with the accounting side, I'm dealing with the tax side, but I'm also dealing with the sales side of what we do. So making sure that, people know who we are, where we are, how to reach out to us. And then also just the growth of the business. I am a business owner, so I have to look at, what are we doing as a firm? Are we meeting our objectives? And so that consumes my full day and evening.
Okay.
And so, so there's not a typical day, being the accounting and the tax manager, I have to be able to pivot and shift gears throughout the day based on the needs of our clients.
And you mentioned pivoting. Have you ever had a time where a business needed to pivot and it put you in a situation where you needed to think on your toes
Oh
and
man.
come up with something fast? If you have an example, please share it with us.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago, we had this thing called a pandemic that
Pandemic.
came through. It was COVID. And so that really put a lot of small businesses, put everybody in a different place, right? We were all in uncharted territory. So what we had to do was figure out how in the world we could help our clients stay afloat, how we could keep their businesses rolling. And then as the government started rolling out incentives and different things to help small businesses, we had to look at how could we get this information into the hands of our clients
Okay.
so that they could benefit. And so we had to look into things like PPP and EIDL and all of these different packages to put funds back into businesses to keep them rolling and to keep their employees paid. And so we didn't know anything about it, right? They're just rolling this out, and so I had to dive into this. I had to on my toes. I had to pivot myself and say, okay, well, no one really cares about how to save money on taxes right now.
Right.
They're just trying to stay afloat.
Yeah.
So we had to jump in and research all of this information. And so we got so good at it that we actually had other CPAs and professionals that were reaching out for us to stay ahead of the curve of what was going on. But it started out as a commitment to our clients. That's
Okay.
really how it started.
Okay.
And then eventually we just kind of rolled it out. We said, listen, hey, if this is something, if you've been negatively impacted by the pandemic, reach out and we're going to try to help you, you know? So that was definitely an opportunity for us to think on our toes and be able to help our clients.
And I didn't even know. I mean, not that I was supposed to know, but it's amazing how your firm was there to help other firms.
Yeah.
Okay. In my peon brain, and with most of us, when it comes to business, you think of, or you hear the word or see the word firm, and you just think of this big conglomerate of just stuff.
Right.
So when you have other firms reaching out to you, to me, like that's an ultra win. That is an ultra win.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great opportunity to just kind of show the versatility that we have as a company. So I mean, we're smaller, so we don't have to go through all the red tape of trying to turn and pivot and do all these
Right,
things.
right.
We're able to turn on a dime. So if something happens, we can make it happen. And you know, another thing too that helps us to be able to do that is everyone within our firm understands that there are things that are going to come up that we don't have experience in or that we've never encountered before. But there's technology out there that can help us get the experience and the knowledge that we need to be able to help our client. And so everyone has that mindset in our company. And so if something else comes up, man, we're going to stop what we're doing. We're going to make sure we're meeting the existing needs of our client, but we're going to stop what we're doing and say, okay, let's look at this thing because we know that this can keep the doors of our client's business open.
Man, that's amazing. That is amazing. Do y'all have a motto for your business? Do you have one?
You know what? We don't.
Huh.
We really don't. We don't have a motto. We don't have a motto. We don't have a tagline. I guess I need to get on my marketing guy, my branding guy, with that and say, hey man, we need to get something. But we really don't. I mean, yeah, we don't.
Okay.
What else to say?
This is a random question.
Okay, that's a good
Now,
question.
you put out a guide to help people to help determine if small business is the way,
Right.
and if so, you gave tools. And I have some notes here,
Okay.
and I'm gonna mention the subject, and I would just like for you to elaborate
Sure.
on that subject. We'll just start off with let's see. Consult a business attorney and choose an entity structure.
Yeah.
Let's talk on that for a little bit.
So that's important. A lot of small business owners want to get started, and the first thing that they think is, I need to have some type of an entity. I need to be an LLC. I need to be a corporation, right? And then there's this S corp thing that everybody's hearing about. It's like a big, I don't want to call it a fad, but it's very attractive for business owners. But the thing about it is, whether you're an LLC, a C corp, S corp, partnership, there are stipulations that are out there. There are guidelines that you have to follow in order to remain compliant, which means to stay within the guidelines of what the formation entities have set out. So So it's best to really speak with someone that understands these entity types before you just set out to do something,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Even before you set up an EIN, because a lot of small business owners will go out there and they'll just get an EIN, they'll get business cards made, they'll get a website, and then they'll talk to someone about formalizing their entity. Well, what if that business name is not available within your state? What if that business name is not available at the local courthouse? Right now, you have to pivot and do something else, but you've already put time and effort into all of that. So it's good at the onset. Make sure you have a good, solid idea of where you're going. And so I always like to tell business owners, let's go ahead and put in place now where you're trying to be. So if ultimately you think you're going to need an LLC, you're going to need some type of entity, go ahead and put that in place now, and then just grow into it.
Okay. And we're gonna move away from the list for just a second. You put out a YouTube short. It's here recently, and you talked about how there is a misconception when it comes to filing taxes. Because I think I've mentioned this to you. I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to start a business. I'm gonna file my taxes every quarter," which was not the correct
Right.
way. Can you explain to us,
Yeah.
like what that actually entails and whatnot?
So there's a couple of things when it comes to filing taxes, right? So the big thing is whenever someone says file taxes, immediately we're thinking about IRS,
Right.
And so when it comes to the IRS and generally just filing your taxes, and we're not going to get into sales tax and use tax and all of that, franchise, we're not going to get into that, only on the federal side.
Right.
From a federal income tax standpoint, you are not required to file on a quarterly basis. Okay. What happens is, in order for you to avoid penalties and additional interest on any tax liability you're going to have when you do file, they ask that you make quarterly estimated tax payments. But it's not a filing.
It's a
You
payment.
simply log in, make the payment, log out. So you don't actually have to file. But you do want to use your previous information and then your estimates of where you're going, which speaks to keeping proper records so you know what your profit is.
All right.
But it's not an actual filing. The only quarterly filing that you have is if you have employees. Now you have a quarterly payroll tax filing that's out there, but typically that's not what small business owners encounter when they first get started.
So then, excuse me. So then, maybe like content creation, those folks, YouTube or podcast, Twitter, whatever.
Right.
Those people would then go down that lane. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So yeah, y'all heard it because like I said, I just automatically thought you had to file or you had an option just to file the taxes, not knowing anything, about that. So we're gonna keep this moving. This says open a business bank account. When you go to do that, I've actually seen some horror stories for people trying to open business bank accounts. What type of bank would you suggest that we look for? And then what amenities should that bank have to help support that small business?
Yeah. So the type of bank, it really depends on your industry, what type of business you're getting into, and how large you're looking to grow, right? Are you looking for a big national bank that can support you in almost every state, right? And then based on your industry as well, you want to make sure that it's a bank that supports your industry. There are some industries where banks will say, no, we're not opening up an account for that particular type of industry, all right? So I'm gonna let you use your imagination on that one. But as far as amenities, you want a bank that can grow with you. You want a bank that can handle the type of deposits that you're going to be bringing. A bank that, of course, has a debit card. It'd be great if they had credit card options for you as well. But outside of that, and that's not going to charge you every single month some huge amount to maintain your account because you're just getting started.
Right.
So you may not have that minimum balance. And so you're wanting to look at, what are some low barriers of entry in terms of this particular bank and how I can get in there. And what you're going to want to do, and the importance of that is keeping your information separate.
Okay.
Because a lot of small business owners, they want to have everything going into their personal bank account because it's easy. And the thing is, easy doesn't necessarily mean that it's accurate and that it's right. So you want to get that separate account.
Okay. if you hop on TikTok, and you've probably seen it, y'all listening, y'all may have seen it. You see these videos where they try to tell you how to start a business, this, that, and the third, and then they go into credit cards. When you mentioned that, it kind of made me remember.
Mhm.
They tell you, oh, okay, all you have to do is take your EIN number and fill out on the application, and then you should get a credit card. If the business needs to have a credit card as opposed to a debit card, what is the way that they should go to see if they can get approved and not do the the social media way, so to speak?
Yeah. So getting the credit card. So a lot of times as you're starting your business, even your business credit card is going to have to be in your personal name
Right.
because you have an established history. Right. And that's not a problem. So the thing that I typically advise is that when you get that card and you're going to use it for your business, use it 100% for your business.
Mm.
Don't don't mix up transactions, personal and business, on that particular credit card. So it doesn't necessarily have to say ABC business name LLC on the card for you to deem it as a business credit card.
Okay.
So you can have a personal card, but you just need to allocate everything towards the business on that particular
On
card.
that card.
So
Okay.
again, it's really hard as you're getting started to have a business card. But if you're able to do that, you want to make sure that it's in the business's EIN. Make sure
Okay.
it's in that employer identification number is used on that particular card, and the card has the name of the business on it on the top, and then your name as the card holder underneath.
Okay. And speaking of cards, and of course we do free promotions whenever possible here on the show. Is there a particular type of card that you would suggest, or maybe, and not even brand name, but maybe like the features that it might have for a first time business owner?
Man, there really isn't anything. You just want to look for something with a decent limit, but again, that's
Okay.
going to be based on your credit
Your
worthiness.
credit.
So
Mm.
it's you just want something with a decent limit that you can actually use for the growth of your business. Now, I want to put this plug in there too, though. With this card, you got to be careful with this card.
Right.
So I did a video that's called "Expenses Are Expenses." Just because it's something that you can write off doesn't mean that you need to pay for it and that you need to buy it, that you need to
Gotcha.
get it. So you still need to be mindful that this card has to be paid back
Mm.
and interest is still going to be in place. So if you can get something that has a some type of incentive where it's 0% interest on purchases for the next 6 months or so, that's great.
Mm.
Right. But you still need to be careful. You still need to be mindful of the fact that this is a credit card and you're going to have to pay that balance off.
Pay it off, folks. This is not a free ride.
Right.
You got the business pumping, small business person. They've done all the things, capital, money's coming in, and now we're at the point in your guide where we talk about paying yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've seen where maybe a small business, they go to that pay yourself level, but it just doesn't pan out like they thought it was going to pan out?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with paying yourself. It usually comes in a couple of different forms. So it can be what's called like an owner's draw or a distribution, right? And that's basically just the owner pulling money out of the business. Okay. But then you have wages. Now that's where it gets tricky
Mm.
because you've been just pulling money out of the business. You need $500. You pull out 500. Well, if you do wages, you need $500. You actually need to pay yourself like 650 because
Mm.
you have employer and employee taxes that are associated with it. And so it's going to cost you more to actually pay yourself.
Wow.
So you have to think through that and plan for it. The other thing too with wages is it's also based on the type of entity that you have.
Mm.
So if you're an LLC, and this is just what I've seen for the state of Texas, the great
Right.
state of Texas, if you are an LLC, you cannot be a member of the entity and an employer or employee of the entity. So the only option that you have is to take a draw, is to pull money out. You
Okay.
cannot process payroll for yourself as an LLC.
Wow.
And so that's one of the biggest downfalls that I see as well. Number one, not planning. And then number two, processing payroll and you're not a legitimate employee. You can't be.
Wow. Wow. So when you take the draw thing, that's when you do the draw, are you paying taxes on that draw, or is that considered something else, or?
After the fact, all right. So let me do some accounting 101
All right.
for you. So whenever you're taking out a draw, so let's look at a P&L statement, a hypothetical profit and loss statement. So let's just say you have for the year you have $100,000 of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's the top line. And then you have all of your expenses and everything, and that equals $50,000. Okay, so you have $100,000 in revenue, 50,000 of expenses. Your profit is now 50,000. We're not factoring in all this other stuff, depreciation and all that. So 50,000 is your profit. So let's say you pull out $50,000 in cash. You just happen to have it available to pull out,
Mm-hmm.
and this is on. Let's stay within the year. So we're going to say December 1st. You pull out $50,000. Well, that 50,000 that you pulled out does not reduce your profit.
Hmm.
It'll reduce your cash balance,
Right.
but it does not reduce your profit. That particular transaction does not go on the P&L statement. It goes on the balance sheet, and it affects your equity. So I'm not going to get into all of that,
Man.
but
Okay.
just
Okay.
know that your taxable income for your business
Mm-hmm.
is still $50,000.
Okay. Okay.
Now, if you process payroll, and let's just say you're the type of entity where you can process payroll for yourself, or you process it for someone else,
Mm.
and after fees and taxes and everything, all of that totals $50,000. Now we're going to take that and put it into the rest of the expenses. So you already had 50,000, then you have this payroll situation with another 50. Out of that $100,000 of revenue,
Mm.
now your profit is zero.
Mm. Okay.
So there's a benefit to processing payroll, but you got to do it the right way.
So
and you have to plan for it.
So then, if let's say, for instance, a YouTuber wanted to go that route, would the YouTuber then need to hire another person to process payroll, or would they need to outsource their money or their revenue to, like, say, for instance, your firm or a firm like yours, and then your firm distributes the money? Like, how do you think?
There are a lot of options out there in third party platforms that can actually process the payroll for you.
Okay.
So one of the platforms that we utilize internally and for a huge majority of our clients is QuickBooks Online.
Mm.
So within QuickBooks Online, you can actually process your own payroll. Now, we don't advise that.
Right.
We like for you to use a third party that really understands payroll processing, but we understand that that's not always, efficient from a cost standpoint.
Mm.
But if you're officially processing payroll, you're gonna want to go through a third party processor.
And how hard is it to get linked into a third party?
Simple.
Okay.
Super
Okay.
simple. Usually cost is the barrier.
Mm.
That's usually the barrier, not the activity itself.
You have one of your subjects on here is target the right clients for lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to lead generation, old school would be cold calling on the phone, but we obviously are not in that era anymore. What would you suggest someone, like, how would they start as far as doing that?
Man, you know what? It's funny. I had this conversation with someone just a couple of days ago, and the easiest way for people to know what you do is for you to tell them.
Mm.
That's the quickest way. Have conversations. Like, don't walk around with a billboard on and a plaque saying, this is who I am, this is what I do.
Right.
But in general conversations, if you're looking for a way to help someone with what you do, you'll find that you'll find that opportunity in that moment to share with them what you do.
Mm.
And that's where I failed when I first got started.
Mm.
I really struggled with telling people what I did. And even clients that were already on board, I struggled. All we were doing for them was tax preparation.
All right.
Well, they came to me and they said, hey, do you know anyone that can do our monthly accounting? Yeah, we can do it. Right. Or we were doing their monthly accounting. They were like, hey, we need someone that can do our tax prep. Do you have a referral for us? I'm like, well, we can do that. Well, they didn't know because we never told them.
Mm.
We never opened our mouths and said, hey, these are the services that we offer. And so as you're getting started, share your story with others. Share what you do with family, friends, and acquaintances around you.
Mm.
Right. And then put yourself in a situation where you have to share with other people, which is like a networking event or something like that,
Right.
where you're there to share who you are and what you do. and why they need to use you versus the next person. What makes you better? There are 1,000 CPAs and firms within the Fort Worth area, but you can engage them to
Right.
work with, but you're not going to get Jeremy A. Johnson's team, and that's what you want.
That's what you want.
You need to be successful. You need our team partnering with you, and so you have to have that kind of confidence, and you have to be able to tell that kind of story in order for others to engage with you and be willing to move forward. So you have to be confident. So that's something else I would put out there. You have to be confident in what you're doing and the service that you offer or the product that you're selling.
Man, that's nice. Have you ever considered having or hosting an event where you showcase everything you've written in your book or what you do at your place of business? Have you ever considered doing something like that?
Not really all in one setting. I want to make sure I'm sharing this information, and I decided to do it in a different platform, and that's YouTube and
Right.
Facebook and LinkedIn and TikTok and all of that, Instagram. So I'm all over the place in terms of providing this information, and I do it for free. I'm not trying to get monetized
Man.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
If I do, okay, glory to God. But that's not my thing. I want to make sure the small business owners understand what it takes to really operate a business. And so I haven't done it in mass to where I'm going to say I'm having an event, I'm doing a webinar or something like that. So no,
Right.
that's not something that I've done yet.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
I'm not opposed to it.
hey, if you do it, you know you got some listeners, especially me. I'm down for it. So we are at the point, everybody, where it's usually called some type of cast, where it'd be a nerd cast or a chef cast. In this case, we're gonna call this the accounting cast. So at this moment, say whatever's on your mind. It could be about CPA, it could be about trucks, it could be about grass, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yes, yeah.
So go ahead and say what's on your mind, and your time starts now.
Cool. So, one of the things that I want to make sure that if you're listening to this, all right, make sure you go to jajohnsoncpa.com/, then the word entrepreneurs -guide, and get a free copy of my guide. And the thing that's in the things that are in that guide are going to help you. It's not only going to talk about tax and accounting and keeping records and all of that, but it's going to make you think about why you're going into business. It's going to make you think about the sacrifices that you're going to make as you're getting into business. Because one of the fallacies as it relates to small business is just the appeal of being your own boss. But there are some things you're going to have to give up to really be successful in your business. And I want to make sure you think through those things and you look at those things and put them on the forefront of your mind as you're getting ready to start on this entrepreneurial track.
Y'all heard it here first. Well, maybe not first, but y'all heard it here on the podcast. I appreciate your time. Maybe sometime in another couple of months or so, we can retouch, have another session or whatnot. But y'all listen to this podcast. So because of that, y'all are now official. One more again, where can they find you if they want to at least get the ball rolling with their business?
Go to our website, jajohnsoncpa.com, and the information is right there for you to reach out to us and so that we can reach back out to you if need be.
That's awesome.
Sure.
Y'all are now official. This is your man, Keith, and we will see you later.